Tucker comes on. Kyle Tucker. This time they're going to stretch it on.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever the fuck you're listening, watching, whatever. This is another episode of RosinBaggers Special Edition NCAA Super Regionals. I got my main man, Gary Freeze. Gary, how you doing, bud?
Doing good, man. There's been some really fucking good, really exciting baseball played so far in the regionals, the Super Regionals. A lot of really good matchups. I like how the bracket kind of broke down and the matchups that we got from the Super Regionals. Sometimes we get a little funky ones where we got super high seeds playing each other. It can happen once in a while that way because the way they break them up geographically. But we got some really fucking good matchups this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When the matchups came out, when the 16 national seeds came out, we're like, okay, the big question mark on that one, everyone was talking about was South Carolina. Would they get a national seed? They end up getting the 15th national seed. And then from there, things just kind of fell into place. And you saw these matchups, and really the one that stood out to me, I think, was Tulane.
Yeah.
Tulane Green Wave. And this is what I don't get. The NCAA needs to explain this to me because you have Wake Forest, who is the number one overall national seed, the best team in baseball out of the ACC. They're the number one team in the nation. You have Tulane, who won the conference championship, but has a 19-30 record. So they are arguably the worst team going into regionals. So why are they not in the regional with the number one team in the nation? They weren't even in the second best teams regional. And I'd have to look back at this. I don't even think they were in the top 3 regionals.
I think you might be right. I think they were in the 4 seed regional, I believe. They were with Arkansas, right? I think maybe not. Either way, and I know they try to do it as geographically as possible, right? But Tulane to Wake Forest, right? Louisiana to North Carolina, that's not that much of a trip. And we had a couple of regionals where teams were going north or south, right? I think Indiana State had kind of a southwest team in their bracket. So it's one of those things that the NCAA, I think they try to stick to some sort of a script, but I'm with you. Why wasn't Tulane? Why wasn't Wake Forest playing Tulane first in their game? It's weird. It's weird. The NCAA never does things that make sense. And we've got yet another thing to talk about that they've done that doesn't make any fucking sense with the Super Regionals.
So I did a little background. Okay, so what Gary is alluding to here is the Terre Haute Regional here. And I want to say if Arkansas would have won, this wouldn't have been an issue.
No.
Because the Super
State
Regional
would've
would have
been-
been played in Arkansas.
Yeah.
But TCU beat Arkansas in their regional, and Indiana State came out of their regional, which was the Terre Haute. So, needless to say, Indiana State should be hosting a Super Regional this weekend against TCU. That is not the case. And for reasons that, there was already a planned Special Olympics event on the fields that they play on. They were taking up hotels and everything else. So there wasn't enough hotel rooms for the teams, and you can't really reschedule the Special Olympics that's already been scheduled. Maybe next year they might do a better job as far as rescheduling, something past something that you could possibly host for your school.
Yeah.
So
here's my thing on that, though, right? Like, this isn't the National Summer Olympics or Special Olympics, right?
correct.
It's the state summer games, and I find it hard to believe that they couldn't find accommodation for one team, right? We're not bringing 4 teams like we did with the regional. We're not bringing 4 teams to Terre Haute. We're bringing one team in, put them up in the dorms, put their families up in the dorms. I went on college visits where I was in the dorms, so I know that the dorms are accessible in the summer. Just because school's out doesn't mean the dorms don't exist. So I just, if that was the case, and I understand the fields thing and whatnot, but like,
I agree. I agree with you.
you can make it work, man.
You can.
How many times in the history of this program is Indiana State going to have the opportunity to host a Super Regional to go to the College World Series?
No, absolutely. I'm in total agreement with you here.
It's irritating.
It goes back to the regional here. It was either Kentucky or I think it was Kentucky. There was some big event where there were not enough hotel rooms to house the 3 other baseball teams that were coming to Kentucky's regional. What'd they do? Kentucky opened up their dorms.
Yeah.
Now, they had a field to play on. Their field wasn't being used. It was just the lack of hotel rooms.
You're not going to tell me you can't make room for 3 games, and it's not even guaranteed to be 3 games. But you can't tell me you can't make room.
3, 4, 5 hours. I agree. I agree.
3 games over the course of 3 days potentially that you can't carve 3, maybe 4 hours out of that. Like, it's just, I hurt for those kids, for that program, for those coaches, for that city, for that university. They really haven't had a lot since Larry Bird. They've had basketballs kind of sprung up and made the tournament, I think, once or twice. But like, Indiana State still is really only known for Larry Bird, and this was an opportunity for something that the state of Indiana isn't known for baseball, right? Like, it's just not. It's known for basketball.
It's a basketball country.
And for them to be able to host a Super Regional and then have that taken away, I hurt for them. I could only imagine how it would feel to be a national seed, win your regional, and then have to go on the road against an unseeded team, right? Like you mentioned, if the chips hadn't fallen the way they'd fallen, they probably would have been on the road anyway. But come on, man, we got to find a way to make this work. And it sucks that they've already made the decision, but you got to find a way to make it work right from the jump.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. I'll say the one nice thing that has come from this, the TCU fans or some TCU baseball group has made a donation to the Special Olympics that is going on up there. And I think as of this evening, they had raised over $23,000 for them. So kudos
Is
to
this not the coolest shit? Like when sports does this, right?
yes.
Bill's Mafia does this pretty often where they'll donate to some charity if a guy gets hurt, or when Andy Dalton threw that touchdown to get the Bills into the playoffs a bunch of years ago, they were donating $17 or $14 at a time, and they donated a bunch of money. And it's awesome when stuff like this happens because it's always that silver lining that you can point to and say, the NCAA screwed this up, but this TCU booster club, this baseball club that they got, came in, swooped in, put on their capes, donated to a good cause, and now we've got a good story to tell that comes out of this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that being said, let's move on to the supers here, and let's look at some matchups here. So let's start off here with the number 1 overall team in Wake Forest. They are hosting an Alabama team who probably mid-season you would have bet on they would not have made it.
Yeah. I mean,
really
you're talking about a team that got hot as fish grease down the stretch, man. They're playing really good, solid ball. They've got good pitching up and down the rotation from the starters to the pen. And they've got maybe the most fun guy in the tournament to watch. Dude, the laser shot that he punched a dude at home plate to cut down a run. It's fun. And in the power that he hits with, too, opposite field bombs. It's fun. Alabama's got a fun team to watch. Wake Forest, number 1 overall seed. They're solid up and down, but don't sleep on the Tide in this one, man. They are riding momentum. They are riding a tide of momentum, if you will, into this tournament, and it showed in the regional.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those that don't know the backstory, the head coach was betting on Alabama games here. Got shit canned, and so the assistant coaches, the job that they have done ever since that transpired, they have done a tremendous job in getting Alabama to play like they have been. And it's a testament to them, to the players, on just, facing adversity, when everyone was basically, losing your head coach, they're not going to do anything for the rest of the season. Facing that adversity and, just basically saying, watch this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with you. This will be a good one. But with Wake Forest being the number 1 overall team and having number 1 pitching staff in college baseball, if I were a betting man, I'm gonna go with them Demon Deacons, baby.
Save money's on the Deeks. Excuse me, sorry. Safe money's on the Deeks, but and Andrew Pinckney's the guy. His name was eluding me for a moment there. Andrew Pinckney's the guy I was talking about. He's a fun guy to watch. We might only get to see him for 2 games. Wake Forest is just that good. But if you get a chance in this Super Regional and you didn't catch him in the regional, watch him play. He's just a stellar ball player. I think we're going to see him probably in the major leagues in the next 3, 4, 5 years. I love the way he plays the game. I love how complete his game is. Not quite 5 tools in terms of having that plus power bat. He's got some pop, but guy that can really field his position well, strong arm, good at the plate, good discipline. So, and you mentioned that mid-season turnaround. He's been a big part of that. He's batted something like 358 or something with 12 bombs and a bunch of RBIs since then. So get a chance to watch him. I think you're going to be able to watch Wake Forest in Omaha. So take a look at the Tide while they're playing the Wake Forest Demon Deacons if you get a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Who you got in this one? You got Wake Forest in 2 or 3?
I mean, I want them all to go 3, but
right, just more baseball. Absolutely.
Wake's they're too complete a team, to be honest. Right now, I think it's there's probably 3 teams that I'm really would put in the palm of my hand to say these are the 3 teams that I think are gonna really have a shot to win it all, and Wake Forest is one of them. So probably 2 games and pack your bags for Omaha.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Demon Deacons in 2 for me, so as well. So moving on, Stanford, Texas. Texas goes out to Palo Alto.
Yeah.
Play the Stanford trees out there.
Yeah. The old pine trees.
Yeah, the old pine trees. This is another interesting matchup for me. Texas, at one point in time they were below 500.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they snuck in, and they're riding a hot streak.
Yep.
Riding a hot streak. So.
Yep. Yeah, another one of those teams that down the stretch got hot and like you said, snuck into the tournament. Texas was on the bubble right up until selection. What was it? It's a Tuesday, I think, for the World Series. But right up until selection day, they were not sure they were going to get in. They ended up getting in, and then they continue the hot streak, win their regional, and we get to see them go out there and play the old pine trees out in Palo Alto. This is a really interesting, evenly matched series. This one, I think, is going to go 3.
I think you're right on this one too. Yeah.
Who you got winning though, bud?
That's so I'm going with Stanford because
I'm going the other way, bud.
Because if Stanford wins and they go to the College World Series, you know who's going to be in Omaha? John Dutton.
Oh, really?
John Dutton's going to be in Omaha watching his Stanford Cardinals.
Nice.
And for me, the nostalgia going back to the late 90s, early 2000s, when you had Stanford, you had Florida State, you had Miami, you had LSU, you had Rice, you had those, those were the baseball schools.
Oh, yeah.
Cal State Fullerton.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I loved watching all those teams play back in the day. So for me, it's more of a nostalgia thing.
Yeah,
and plus, I'm just not a big Texas fan. But I'm sure if Texas
There's
wins,
nothing wrong with hating on Texas.
No, none whatsoever. None whatsoever. But if Texas does win, Texas has been. I did like Augie.
Yeah.
Rest his soul. But if Texas does win, they're Roger Clemens and probably Cody Clemens. Yeah, Cody's got baseball, but Roger Clemens probably make an appearance at some point or another. But give me Stanford Cardinals here in 3.
I'll take Texas in 3. I just think that right now they're riding high. I think momentum's gonna be a big difference maker in this series. I think these are pretty evenly matched teams in terms of what they bring to the dish. But give me Texas in 3. I just think that momentum's gonna make a big difference for them.
Okay. All right. Moving on, we got 2 SEC schools. The Kentucky Wildcats travel down to Baton Rouge and play probably one of the arguably probably the second, if not third best school in the nation in the LSU Tigers, and probably has the number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
Who you got in this one?
I'm going LSU. Mid-season, I kind of picked them to win it. I said if their bullpen started pitching better, that they were going to have a chance. I mean, I even said it in the group chat with you and Ty that they reminded me kind of the Braves, right? And the Braves are starting to fix their pen, and we see them winning games now. LSU seems to have had a better – I don't know what they did between the SEC tournament and their regional, but the bullpen was much better in the regional. So for me, if their bullpen is going to continue to be effective and get outs, LSU is the best team in the nation if their bullpen is good. It is a big X factor, though. So if they go and shit the bed and I miss this pick, Kentucky's going to take advantage of that spotty bullpen. But give me LSU. Probably going to go 3. I think Kentucky gets one, maybe the middle game in the series. I think LSU takes game 3 to move on to Omaha.
You know,
You can do it.
You somewhat have two contrasting teams here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You have Kentucky, who plays small ball.
Very much so.
You have LSU, who's hitting dingers.
Big boppers.
Big boppers, baby. You got Dylan Cruz, projected to be the number 1 overall pick in this year's MLB draft. And you got some other guys on that team that are studs. I mean, and that's the thing about LSU SEC baseball. Each team has multiple MLB prospects that are going to get drafted each and every year. I'm going LSU, and I'm going to go in 2.
Okay.
I'm going LSU in 2 here.
Yeah. Might be the first time. I can't remember what year they said it was, but it's like 30 years ago, I think it was. Might be the first time that two guys from the same team go 1 and 2, because they've got Skeens there, the pitcher. He's potentially going to go number 2. I imagine there's going to be some high school prospect that goes before him, but because that's how Major League Scouts work. But Paul Skeens could go number 2, which just speaks to what you were just saying. These teams are pretty loaded with MLB prospects, especially this late, right? You get this far in, you're looking at a lot of guys who have been drafted or expect to be drafted in the next year or two.
Yeah. Now the one thing to watch for on LSU is if Kentucky can do the small ball, get some runs early, what we would like to call, some, I guess, stressful situations.
Yes, absolutely.
If they can get to LSU's bullpen hasn't been too reliable. Now they did come up clutch here in the regionals when they needed to.
Yep.
But
they've been shaky for long stretches of this season.
Yes, they have been. Yes.
So you're absolutely right. You run that pitch count up, you get guys on base, and you start to put a lot of stress on the starters and the bullpen coming in tough situations. That's how Kentucky wins this, right? That's how they win this. That's how they've won all year, right? They move guys over and move them up, play good defense, clutch hitting here, clutch hitting there. They're and the stats are just crazy with Kentucky. I know they got a national seed, but there was a time when there was some conversation that they might not get a national seed. They might end up in a tough regional, yada yada. But their coach was actually, marketing, selling during the SEC tournament. He said, we have 0 quad 4 losses. They had, I think it was 12 quad 1 wins. And their resume is astounding, but because of their style of play, I think they do get overlooked, right? Yeah. Small ball doesn't move the needle, right? Nowadays, it's just now it's the big boppers and the guys throwing 100 miles an hour. Kentucky plays a different, kind of a traditional old school brand of baseball that I love to watch it, but it doesn't move the needle in terms of that national recognition. But we're starting to see it play out. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to create those situations you just brought up and make this tough on LSU. And that's kind of why I picked in 3 is I just think maybe that middle game, they're going to be able to take it. Yeah. They've got the hammer in that middle game and be able to potentially manufacture some runs and get to that bullpen possibly. I would not be entirely surprised if Kentucky ekes this out, 5-4 in game 3 or something,
Yeah. No, I'm with you. You said it earlier. You want all of them to go to game 3 because it's just more great baseball we get to watch.
Absolutely.
So I'm all for it.
Give me all those do or die games, man.
Exactly. It's very much possible. Absolutely. I just think that the LSU bats, their offense, are just going to take them. I think Skeens is going to throw probably a good 7 innings in game 1.
And they'll need it from him.
And you know what? They may not pitch him game 1.
True. Yeah.
They could throw someone else out there and have him. But if I were the coach, you're setting the tone game 1.
You run him out. You run your horse out there.
Yeah. Don't mess with it. Don't mess with it.
I'm with you. Don't get cute. This isn't the time of year to get cute.
No. So I'm still going to stick with my prediction. 2 games here. LSU advances to Omaha, but I'm here for all 3 games.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right. Tennessee, Southern Miss. Tennessee, Southern Miss.
This is one of our 2 matchups of 2 teams that weren't national seeds.
Yeah.
You know, we saw a lot of hosts get knocked off, and but that was part of the excitement of the regionals is these teams, these non-1 seed teams getting through. And you know, Tennessee, you know, in all fairness to who they play, Auburn, right? No, not Auburn. Clemson. Tennessee not being a national seed, they're a pretty stacked fucking roster for a non-national seed team. They had some issues this year, and things have not worked out great, and they've had some stretches. Their number 1 pitcher's kind of gone through fits and bouts of, you know, bad first innings, and you know, when all things are right for Tennessee, they're one of the probably 6 or 8 best teams in the country. Yeah. So sorry, Clemson, you drew kind of the short straw with Tennessee in your region.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Southern Miss, this is probably where the magical run ends. It's been nice seeing them as a non-national seed get through. Small school, not traditionally known for baseball. Good to see them get through, but Tennessee is probably going to roll them in 2, and it's probably going to be rolling them in both games.
I agreed, but this is one that you cannot overlook, because you start to overlook it, you're behind the 8 ball, and all of a sudden you're down game 1. Now you're in a do or die.
Then the pucker factor gets real.
Yes. So I actually look at this one as going 3 games.
Ooh.
I honestly do.
You got Southern Miss taking game 1?
I haven't taken game 2.
Okay.
I haven't taken game 2 here.
Okay.
But man, you
have the advantage they're hosting.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have that advantage that tightens things up a little bit, I think, for Tennessee. But
you know, Tennessee last year was the favorites to win it. They didn't even make it.
Didn't get out of their Super Regional, yeah.
This year they had high expectations as well. And like you said, early things going on in the season. Coach gets suspended for some recruiting stuff, whatever. But again, this team is dangerous.
Oh yeah.
They got some boppers too. And I tell you what, their coach is a young buck. His players feed off of his energy.
Yeah, he brings that.
Brings that BDE.
Yes, he does.
And it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see out there. And I have a feeling we're going to see some raw, strong emotion here. I think we're going to have a pimped home run here. And
Tennessee, that's their thing.
That's their mantra.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
I will say this, though. The umpires in the regionals, out of all the games I saw, where players were jawing or doing some sort of pimping, not even after a home run, but like, you know, just even after a walk or something, they were giving warnings.
Yeah.
And especially that, and also talking back to the umpires on balls and strikes. Saw a lot of that this past weekend in the regionals. So these teams have to keep that in mind, that they're closely watching that this year. And
I don't go over the line, right? Yeah. Tennessee's going to feed off emotion, but you've got to be able to know where that line is, and you can't go across it for sure. And you know, to an extent, I get it. You want to nip that stuff in the bud before it turns into something, especially in a college game, right? You don't want benches clearing or something silly like that in a college game. So I understand, you know, the umps really, you know, the NCAA probably has told them, hey, keep an eye on X, Y, or Z. But if you're Tennessee, you want to continue to feed off that raw emotion, but you got to know where that line is and not cross it. Because suspensions in the NCAA are not like MLB. You get tossed from an MLB game, no big deal. See you tomorrow. The NCAA could take you out for a game, 2 games, whatever, depending on the nature of the suspension. So be careful.
Yep, absolutely. So who you have Tennessee in this one?
Yeah, I got Tennessee.
You got them in 2?
I got them rolling in 2. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got them going in.
I'm here for game 3. I'm here for game 3. Let's do it.
Yeah. Man, it's going to go game 3. It's going to go game 3. Who do I take in game 3? That's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, give me Tennessee. Give me Tennessee in 3.
Okay.
Give me Tennessee in 3 here.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Let's just go right across here. And the one super regional that we were talking about here, the Sycamores of Indiana State and TCU Horned Frogs. Really, Indiana State, national seed.
Yeah.
TCU, they've had some ups and downs this year too. They came out of a good regional there in Arkansas.
Yep.
Fought them off and really took it to the Razorbacks there in the final 2 games. And I want to say they scored close to 30 runs in the final 2 games. I mean, the long ball was apparent for the Horned Frogs.
Balls was flying out of fucking
Fayetteville.
Man, they were flying.
Yeah. I think the Cinderella story continues here. I'm gonna go Indiana State.
I'm with you. I wasn't sure which way you were going to go with this one. I'm going Indiana State. This one's going to go 3, I think. Give me Indiana State in game 3. I also think that Indiana State's the better team, to be honest. I know they're not a big baseball school, but what they've assembled there, it works for them. They've got a bit of a swagger about them. I don't know if anybody saw the highlight, the video, but the left fielder pretending like he robbed a home run and playing coy.
Yes, that was awesome.
I was honestly waiting for the batter to actually get to the dugout and then
yes.
Oh no.
Doesn't count.
But that was pretty cool. They've got a good swag about them. They've got a pretty decent pitching staff. Not a lot of pros on this roster, I don't think, but I just think what they've assembled there and the way that they play kind of complete baseball. Give me Indiana State to keep it going. I think we're going to see the Sycamores in Omaha, man.
Yeah. You got them going in 3?
3 games. Yeah.
I'm total agreement with you on this one. Yeah, absolutely. I think TCU wins game 1, but then I think Indiana State comes back and wins 2 and 3.
I can see that for sure.
Yet they're riding the high of beating Arkansas on 2 games there and the long ball. But I think if you rely too much on that is where you're going to get hurt. And they're going to rely too much on that, and it's going to hurt them.
Yeah, that sort of thing can go away.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Moving on up. Is that Oral Roberts and Oregon?
Yeah, Oral Roberts and Oregon.
And the Ducks.
Another kind of traditionally good basketball school in Oral Roberts. They've made the tournament quite a few times, knocked a couple of teams off in the tournament in basketball that not traditionally a big baseball school. Real big upset in their regional. They've got some momentum going, but this is the other matchup we've got of 2 unseeded teams facing off against each other. It's just kind of how the regions played out and how the matchups worked out. But it's neat to see these unseeded teams playing each other, and this is the other matchup of two unseeded teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Give me Oral Roberts, man.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm riding that fucking pony all the way to Omaha. Absolutely. I want it so bad for Oral Roberts to keep it going. They are a fun dugout too. They are having so much fun when they're fucking playing the game. I want to see that in Omaha. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're all for it. We are all for the fun and games and dugouts having fun.
Absolutely.
Camaraderie, everything about it.
This one I think is going to go 3 though.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun series.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. Go Oral Roberts. Duke, Virginia. Duke took down our Shanties. I don't like Duke. I don't like Duke.
Yes, I'm so disappointed too because Coastal Carolina is such a good team, such a good roster. They've got really good roster composition, and it showed over the course of the season and the fact that they were a national seed here for a regional. But man, they just couldn't get out of their own fucking way in both of the games that they fucking lost. They couldn't get an out against fucking Furman, I think was the team.
Yeah.
That who had them beaten Coastal Carolina even at all. That should have been a boat race, but they couldn't get it out, and they lost in fucking the 11th inning, 10-8 or whatever it was. And I mean, they struggled to even force extra innings there, and then they kind of battle back, but then they lay another egg against Duke. And credit to Duke, though. I don't want to take too much away from Duke. They played good ball at the right time, and they caught the right regional for them to advance out of. I don't know how long lived it's going to be for Duke, but they caught lightning in a bottle there in the Coastal Carolina regional, and they lived to fight another day.
Yeah. Fuck Duke. I don't like him. I don't like him in basketball.
Yeah.
I don't care for him, so screw him. Virginia, this was their regional was the first time I think that they were hosting a regional since 16, 17, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
They put a lot of money into their baseball facilities, into their stadium there. So that crowd was rocking.
Absolutely.
Crowd was rocking for the first time there in a while. So give me the Cavaliers, and I'm going to say Cavaliers in 2.
Yeah, they're going to sweep. I'll tell you, probably 6 weeks ago, I'd have been hard-pressed to believe that Virginia was going to get to Omaha. I'd have been hard-pressed to believe that Virginia was going to get out of a regional. I openly admit I didn't know as much as I probably should have known about Virginia because they are a fucking good baseball team. ACC baseball is kind of up and down over the last, 3 or 4 years, but they are a good baseball team. And I don't want to completely spoil when we go to preview the games in Omaha and talk about those, but like Virginia's my dark horse. I honestly think that they've got a legitimate shot at surprising a lot of people and winning the whole fucking thing.
Yeah. I mean, being in the same conference as Wake Forest provides its challenges.
Yeah.
We haven't had a number 1 overall seed win it since I think 99, 2000, 2001, somewhere right. It was Miami.
Yeah.
So a number 1
long time.
Long time.
Hard to survive the gauntlet, man. You get this late in the season, it's burning up arms, it's burning up the bullpen, and the team that gets the best production out of their pitching staff usually has the the chance, or you can just hit your way to it the way Oklahoma State did the year they did when they were 4 or 5 seed that year. They won it.
Yeah.
and we've seen teams, South Carolina, right? The years they won, they got hot with the sticks and just beat the fucking shit out of all the pitching they faced along the way.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, give me the Cavs here in 2.
Yep, agreed.
Okay.
Sweet. Get out the brooms.
Leads us to our last and final Super Regional. South Carolina goes down to Florida to take on the Gators. And, living in South Carolina country, having some South Carolina fans, also have some Florida fans, customers, and everything like that. So there's been a lot of banter that's been talked about since the SEC championship tournament. And then Florida almost losing it in their own regional this past weekend.
They were on fucking life support, huh?
They were. South Carolina in the regular season swept the Gators. The Gators were without one of their star pitchers, and they did have a few injuries. South Carolina, though, the last month of the season, basically just kind of shit the bed and were running on fumes. They did get the 15th overall national seed, so their body of work earlier on in the season, gave them enough leverage, enough support to give them that 15th national seed. This past weekend, watching Carolina play in the regionals was a completely different South Carolina team that I saw play in the SEC championship tournament. They were playing relaxed. They were having fun. Now, they also did get back a few guys from injuries that had been missing quite a bit of time. So that also helps as well. Watch out. I'm not saying that just because I live here or anything else like that, but it was night and day different from watching South Carolina play in the tournament to their regional last weekend. Their pitching was decent. Their bullpen still needs a little bit of work, but their starting pitching was decent. Their bats, man, and they were drawing walks after, I think in one game they had 18, 19 walks. That was the game that they scored, I think, 20 runs.
Yeah.
So they're seeing the ball very well. And they were getting some timely hits too. A lot of runs were coming with 2 outs.
Yep.
For them this past weekend.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on this one. I don't believe in Florida as the 2 seed.
Yeah.
I was really surprised that they got the 2 seed when the ranking or when the brackets came out. I understand the record. I understand what they did in the SEC tournament. I understand what they did in a really tough SEC conference. But when I've watched them, it feels like they've kind of band-aided things together a lot throughout the season. And I don't believe in Florida. And I love what I saw from South Carolina, getting the bats woke up and really having great at bats. You mentioned it, taking walks, seeing the ball really well. That clutch hitting, that 2-out hitting, that means you're locked in, right? From a baseball perspective, you know what that feels like when you go up to the plate with 2 outs and you have the confidence that you can go up there and have a good at bat, knock in some runs. 2-out runs are fucking backbreakers for your opponent.
Yeah.
So them having those good at bats, that, to me tells me that this is a team that's locked in. And you're absolutely right. Watch out, right? If you're Florida, you better watch out because the Cocks are coming.
Yeah. It's this one. This is out of all of them. I think this is going to be probably one of the most watched super regionals, just because of the matchups where South Carolina swept them early on. Florida ended up with a better record co-SEC champions. Ended up being the did they end up being the SEC tournament? No.
I thought they won it.
Did they? I can't remember.
I'm gonna double check real quick though, because now you got me questioning myself. I believe.
I think they. Yeah.
I believe they did.
No, A&M, Texas A&M.
Oh, that's right, A&M.
Yep,
Yeah.
A&M.
You're
A&M
right.
won
They got
the SEC
fucking-
tournament. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
And then watching them this last weekend, you know, their bullpen is rocky at times. I'm really looking forward to this one, for obvious reasons, and I'm here for the banter between everyone I know that's a Gamecock and a Florida fan here.
Absolutely.
I'm going South Carolina. I'm going sweep.
Ooh, sweeping them?
Sweeping them in their own backyard.
I'm not going sweep.
That's fine.
I'm not going sweep. South Carolina's gonna win. I think they're gonna win games 1 and 3. I think Florida gets that middle game to salvage some of their pride in their own backyard. But give me Gamecocks in game 3, knocking off Florida and making another trip to Omaha. Braves are in a tight one.
All right. So let's put this up here, Gary. We got Wake Forest. Were we both in agreement on? No.
Oh, we're split on this one.
We're split on Texas Stanford.
Yep.
We're both with LSU.
Yep.
We're both with Tennessee.
Yep.
We're both with Indiana State. We're both with Oral Roberts. We're both with Virginia. And we're both with South Carolina here.
Yeah.
You're picking Virginia to win it all.
They're my dark horse for
Okay.
sure. I think that they've got a real good shot. I still think LSU is the best team in college baseball, but I like what I've seen from Virginia to really kind of surprise me, especially. I didn't pay as much attention to them as I obviously needed to throughout the course of the season. Virginia's a really good baseball team, and yeah, they're my dark horse, man. I think that, if I'm going to pick a team that's not named, Wake Forest, LSU, probably Virginia, man. Virginia's probably that team that I'm going to take.
Okay. No, that's out of all of those. Let me put it back up here. I'm probably going to go with an SEC school. And it might be LSU.
Yeah. I just that bullpen has been the question mark. They were good in the regional, and if they're just good, they don't have to be great out of the bullpen. They just got to be good. Get some outs. Don't come into games and just fucking throw up on yourself. And LSU is good enough offensively, and their starting pitching is good enough that just be good. You don't have to be great. Just be good out of the pen, and I think LSU is the best team in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing too that, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do Super Regionals this weekend was obviously I haven't watched much MLB baseball the past few weeks with college baseball on. It's that time of year. It gets the juices going, but also as well, this is the time of year where you have the MLB draft. Yep. And so some of these kids that are getting drafted are literally finding out when they're in
the middle of Super Regional games.
In the Super Regionals, yes, they're finding out mid-game.
Yeah.
You just got drafted in the second round.
Yeah. Hey, bud, good job turning 2, by the way.
Welcome to the Phillies.
Right.
So it's part of that magic, that love for the sport, the love for the game. And it's what makes that road to Omaha so much better too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, who knows if we do a College World Series one next weekend or next week, we might be back at the old MLB RosinBagger True podcast next week. But no, it's fun to do something different, still baseball related, but at the same time, some of these guys that we're watching in the Super Regionals this weekend, they could be the next star of the MLB in the next few years.
Yeah, you look at some of these guys that have made names for themselves in the tournament. You look at an Alex Bregman, right, who was a prospect. He was a guy that I think was on MLB radars, but he went to Omaha and tore it up, won player of the tournament.
Yep, LSU.
And ended up, I think he went, number 2, I think, in the draft that year. So guys can go here and they can make a name for themselves, increase their stock, and it becomes a situation where you look at a Kumar Rocker, right? He was a kind of a second fiddle pitcher for Vanderbilt until the first year that they made a run in the World Series, and he was a pivotal part of that. And then he ends up going, I think he went 4th in the draft. So
he goes to the Rangers.
I think he is with the Rangers. Yeah, I think you're right.
Both him and Leiter. That was like deadly 1-2
punch, righty lefty 1-2 punch. Yeah,
Leiter has not been Leiter.
He has not.
No.
Has not been the same since leaving Vanderbilt.
No, and neither has Kumar.
No, I think they're tinkering with his mechanics in the minor leagues. So
yeah,
we see that a lot with guys like college. They don't mess with it too much because they only have so much time with them. Whereas the major leagues, they get to the minors and they try to fix their mechanics. And we've seen a lot of guys that are studs in college kind of flame out in the minors because they try to fix it for one reason or another. It could be longevity. It could be, trying to get an extra, tick on the radar gun or get a little more break on a breaking ball or get a little later life on something. And they tinker too much. And some of these guys just can't work through it and become, and we see it with pitchers, right? Pitchers, it's so often with pitchers as opposed to position players because, you're not tinkering too much, maybe a little bit with your swing mechanics, but you're not tinkering too much with mechanics when it comes to position players.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be a great weekend full of baseball, and we're here for it.
There's going to be a name at the end of this tournament that's going to be, the next Rocker or Bregman or, whoever it might be that comes from seemingly nowhere and suddenly gets in Omaha, and maybe it's a guy who throws a shutout or two, or it's a guy that, smashes 4 or 5 home runs and carries his team offensively. There's going to be a name that we don't necessarily look at right now as that guy who's by the end of the tournament going to be that guy.
Yep, absolutely. We're here for it. We are here for it.
Absolutely.
All day, every day.
Absolutely.
With that, we're bringing this episode of RosinBaggers to a close. NCAA Super Regionals. We'll be back here next weekend with another great episode of RosinBaggers. For my main man, Gary, I'm the Big Stove. We are out.